Hello? Okay. Okay, good morning. Thanks for attending. To start with, today's meeting is being filmed for live and subsequent broadcast by the way of the Council's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the Council. As you will see from the agenda papers, generally the public seating areas are not filmed. However, by entering the meeting room and using the public seating area, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of the images and sound recordings for websiting and training purposes. The proposed public speakers have been made aware of the broadcast arrangements prior to this meeting. Will members please use their microphones to contribute to the meeting, and please remember to switch off the microphone when you're finished. Members dialing in, remotely, please turn on your camera for the duration of the committee as requested by the planning department. Also, could you ensure that you refrain from using any mobile devices during the committee and that any devices are on silent. Apologies, we got Councillor Jones and Howells. Any further? Councillor Horton. Okay, thank you. Any declarations of interest? No, okay. Now, you should have all received a copy of the previous minutes. Can I have something to propose a true record, please? Councillor Jordan, second. Sorry, Councillor Routley and Councillor Turton, thank you. Then move on to the first item, which is application number 240813, and presenting officer is Joanne Davidson, please.
Thank you, Chair. Morning all. You'll be aware, hopefully, that late representations were issued yesterday on this application, so hopefully you've seen that. This application is reported to committee as it is major by reason of the site area being over 1 hectare. The application is retrospective as the change of use has already taken place. Permission is sought for the change of use from agricultural use to a dog walking field. The site is in countryside and the proposal affects a public right-of-way. The site is located north of the Mega Road near Llanmartin and is bordered by agricultural fields on 3 sides. It's got the Mega Road to the south and a residential garden is adjacent to part of the eastern boundary, as you can see here. This is a commercial enterprise whereby dog owners book slots online in order to take dogs to the field for exercise. The field has been enclosed by a 1.9 metre high mesh fence that the applicants tell us was installed under permitted development rights. Permission for this fence is not sought as part of this application, but is clearly required to facilitate the use. A hard surfaced area has been created close to an existing vehicular access point off Mega Road, which can be used to park cars and enable them to turn round. This is gated and controlled by a padlock, with codes given to customers upon booking and changed regularly. We are told that no existing landscape features have been affected by the development. Just to point out a couple of key aspects on this block plan. So the hard surfaced area I just mentioned is under my cursor here on the left. The site area is outlined in red, as you can see. The existing public right-of-way route is that dotted line that you can see running through the middle of the field. I'll talk more about the public right-of-way as part of my presentation. The nearest residential occupiers are these here, this pair of semis. I point those out because you'll see there's been a couple of objections to this application. The land you can see there outlined in red actually forms part of a much larger farm known as Church Farm, which extends to at least 300 hectares. From support and information accompanying the submission, the applicants tell us that this field is less productive. The support and information also confirms that the fence has enabled people to walk with their dogs off lead without the worry of them running away. This service will particularly appeal to those owners who have dogs which may be nervous, have poor recall, a disability, or maybe an area for initial puppy training away from other dogs, as well as professional licensed dog walkers. This is a community amenity for the private dog owner and for the support of the local dog business owners by offering a much in-demand, secure and safe location for dog walking. The terms of the bookings are set out in the business website and confirm that customers can book exclusive use of the paddock with up to 10 dogs. The total time at the secure space is 45 minutes, which can be booked on the hour. There is then a 15-minute grace period between bookings, so no overlap can take place. The landowner limits access to the field to one car at a time unless customers have opted to pay for an extra car to enter, up to a maximum of 2 vehicles. Opening hours are confirmed as daylight hours only, although these are specified as being in the summer months from the 1st of April to the 31st of October from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m, the last appointment being at 9 p.m. In the winter months from the 1st of November until the 31st of March, hours are 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. with the last appointment at 6 p.m. I'm just going to show you some photos now so you can visualise this. Remember, it is retrospective, so it's already operating. So on an aerial, we've clearly marked the site there for you to put in context. These are some street view images, again, just to show you the context. The dog walking field on the top slide is on the left here, and you can just see the gates there under my cursor. And then on the bottom slide, the dog walking field is on the right, and you can just about see a stile there, which is linked to the public right-of-way I've mentioned, coming out onto the Mega Road. Some other shots then, showing the field extending along this photograph with the double-gated entry system and the hard surfaced area that's been created for parking of up to 2 cars. You'll also note the fencing that I've already mentioned as well that has been installed around the field. This is just taken from the Mega Road, showing the signage that is already in place next to the field entrance, and a couple of different angles on that gated entry system. Again, a few more slides showing the context, clearly rural. I've already mentioned it is countryside for planning policy terms. These now are taken sort of at the eastern end. You can see there near to the boundary with Greystone's cottage. So this is the boundary on the top left with Greystone's cottage, and again bottom left. So that building you can see is in the garden of Greystones. We're looking then from within the field to the stile that I pointed out on a previous slide. I'll come back to those slides in a second. So there are several key issues to consider in relation to the acceptability or otherwise of this proposal. Policy SP5 of the adopted local development plan confirms that development in the countryside will only be permitted where the use is appropriate in the countryside. Given its nature, it is considered that the proposed development represents an appropriate use within the countryside, and this is not of concern to officers. In relation to residential amenity, the closest residential property is Greystone's cottage, which is located about 160 metres from the hard surfaced area used for parking. Take it back. Two neighbour objections raised concerns for light pollution from car headlights in the winter months and noise from dogs barking, as well as a loss of privacy from the relocation of the public right-of-way. So, the applicants proposed to divert the existing route of the public right-of-way, which you can see dashed through the middle of the field, to a new route, which is actually a purple line, but not showing too well on here, that comes down from the north to the south, along the edge of the field, along that boundary with greystones and out onto Mager Road via that stile that I've shown you. I'll talk about that a little more in a second. In relation to noise and light pollution, some disturbance may occur, but the lawful use of the site is agricultural, with an existing public right-of-way through it, so some activity can be expected. The existing working farm is located directly to the south of Mager Road, which is also likely to generate a degree of animal and traffic noise. The applicant has confirmed that no additional lighting would be installed, which is welcomed, and the number of dogs would also be limited per booking, and each booking is for the exclusive use of the field by one party at a time, with a maximum of 2 cars allowed. It's not overly intense, in our opinion, bearing in mind the size that I've already mentioned, and whilst dogs will make some noise, and their owners may use whistles and shouts and leave headlights on, such noise and light is not likely to be significantly intrusive in this context or have in regard to the characteristics of the use and the separation distances, nor will it be concentrated on the boundary next to the neighbouring premises, such that it would represent a significant and demonstrable overbearing or unneighbourly use. Planning conditions could be used to restrict the use, limit the opening hours, restrict lighting, restrict customers and dog numbers, etc., if the local planning authority was minded to approve permission. I said I'd talk about the public right-of-way a little more. The application appears to rely upon a diversion of the current public right-of-way route that runs through the field. The diverted route is of concern to the nearest neighbour, as it would be closer to their boundary. A separate public right-of-way diversion application is being considered by another council department. This legal diversion process is separate to consideration of the planning application, and it is understood that no decision has yet been made regarding the diversion of the public right-of-way. Consequently, the diversion cannot be relied upon to happen, as objections to it may cause it to be rejected, or the applicant may withdraw from the process, because that can be costly and lengthy. In this case, the proposed route is located outside the application site, and in officer view, its future use, if it were to be approved, would not prejudice or be adversely impacted by this proposal. However, the existing route is. And the public right-of-way issue is of concern and is one of several factors considered to weigh against this scheme. So I'm going to run through these now in order of the recommended reasons for refusal on your agenda. Excuse me. So firstly, the land is agricultural and of a large scale, being over 1 hectare. Agricultural land classification predictive mapping identifies all of the land as very good quality grade 2, and therefore it is best and most versatile agricultural land, or BMV for short. Grade 2 land is considered to offer opportunities for a wide range of agricultural and horticultural crops to be grown, with the level of yield being generally high. Aerial images appear to show the land has been farmed in the recent past. So let's show you some of those. Okay, hopefully they're self-explanatory, but here's some aerial photographs taken in the last 10 years or so. The site field is under my cursor there, 2014, 2016, 2020. Now, this higher grade agricultural land is, in planning policy terms, regarded as a nationally important natural resource, and Planning Policy Wales is relevant. Now, national policy tells us in development management decisions, considerable weight should be given to protecting BMV land from development because of its special importance. Land in grades 1, 2 and 3A should only be developed if there is an overriding need for the development and either previously developed land or land in lower agricultural grades is unavailable or available lower grade land has an environmental value recognised by a landscape, wildlife, historic or archaeological designation which outweighs the agricultural considerations. Policy SP1 in our own LDP relating to sustainability and Policy GP5 relating to the natural environment align with national planning policy in Planning Policy Wales and are also relevant in this matter. If predictive agricultural land quality is high, landowners seeking to develop may undertake further survey work to confirm otherwise, or alternatively must comply with Planning Policy Wales in establishing an overriding need for the development and show, so it's two parts, show that overriding need and show that either previously developed land or land in lower agricultural grades is unavailable or available lower grade land has an environmental value. Now, the field appears to have been farmed until recently in the same way as neighbouring fields, with clear access tracks to it, and whilst additional information was received earlier this week in relation to BMV matters, the proposal still fails the relevant tests for the reasons cited in the late representation report that you've received. Based upon the late information received, any argument that economic benefits outweigh the impact of development are disputed. In any case, more lucrative non-agricultural uses on high-quality agricultural land could be repeated many times over, with significant consequences for the extent of best and most versatile agricultural land and this nationally significant resource. The agent tells us that alternative lower-grade land is either unavailable or unsuitable, but having regard to the significant size of the farm unit, no further justification has been provided as to why other sites within it are unavailable or unsuitable, and no other areas of the unit have been identified or apparently assessed either now or prior to the agricultural use of the field ceasing and the dog field use commencing. On this basis, the proposed development would result in the loss of over a hectare of this finite resource that is best and most versatile agricultural land without justification, and therefore the principle of the proposal is contrary to LDP Policy SP1 and GP5, Future Wales, the National Plan, and Planning Policy Wales. Secondly, and back to this public right-of-way point, our adopted local development plan confirms that public rights-of-way play an important role in allowing public access to the countryside and in enhancing access between residential areas and recreational facilities. Policy supports the inclusion of public rights-of-way routes into new development schemes, but they must be compatible. Policy T7 of the adopted local development plan says that existing public rights-of-way need to incorporate into the site layout or be diverted after public consultation and as agreed with the Council. In this case, the existing public right-of-way is not considered compatible with the change of use, and no diversion has been formally agreed to date. Officers consider that the current layout and alignment of the public right-of-way conflicts with the proposed development and vice versa. The public right-of-way officer objects. The current line of the public right-of-way would mean that members of public, as well as their dogs, potentially, could access across the site at any time, including booked slots by customers of Explore by Paw. It is noted that the purpose of the secure field is to accommodate dogs which may be reactive or have poor recall, and therefore this could potentially lead to conflicts between users of the facility and the public right-of-way, both in terms of safety and the security of the field. It is likely that users of the public right-of-way and the dog walking field will conflict, and users of both will not necessarily reasonably expect such conflict to occur. This is considered likely to result in an adverse impact in respect of the amenity and safety of both sets of users, i.e. of the public right-of-way and the dog walking field, and potential conflict between the two. Now, this is contrary to policies T6, T7 and GP2 of the adopted local development plan. The application is retrospective, as I mentioned, and no planning conditions are considered able to mitigate this objection. Finally, you will see from the late representation report that reason for refusal 3 raised by officers due to the absence of a green infrastructure statement to support the development is now recommended to be removed, as the statement was submitted earlier this week. While some questions still arise from the green infrastructure statement, officers are of the view that biodiversity enhancement, landscaping and green infrastructure matters can be dealt with by planning condition if the committee is minded to grant planning permission. An impact upon green infrastructure is no longer a recommended reason to refuse planning permission. So to conclude, it is recommended that permission be refused for reasons 1 and 2 of your reports. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Joanne. Now I have a public speaker, which is Emily Hammett.
Chair, members of the Public Planning Committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today in support of this application for the change of use of agricultural land to a dog walking field at Church Farm. This proposal represents a valuable and appropriate use of land that is in keeping with both local and national planning objectives, whilst offering positive benefits to the farm and the local dog walking community. I'm going to be addressing the 3 reasons stated in the officer's recommendation for refusal. The first one being the development will result in a loss of an area of the best and most versatile agricultural land. You will have seen that a full justification statement was submitted as late material, and to summarise this statement, the proposed dog walking field represents an appropriate and justified use of 1 hectare of BMV land. There has been no permanent development. This field has been planted with a grass lay, and the site can return to full agricultural use at any time. It is minimal in impact. This is a 1 hectare field, which represents only 0.2% of the farm's total land holding. It is also economically beneficial. The use, in comparison to its size, generates significant farm diversification income, which is vitally important to the future of the farming enterprise. Grassland management enhances biodiversity and reduces nutrient runoff, and similar approvals have been granted for BMV land use, where the development is temporary or reversible, with conditions imposed that if the use ceases, the land is returned to agricultural use. The second point is the development will have a significant adverse impact upon the amenity and safety of users of the development and the existing public right-of-way. The footpath may run through the field, however, the majority of users walk up the boundary of the field and not the correct path, and most of them trespass all over the farm. We've been in discussions with the council footpath officer, who is supportive of moving the footpath, and the formal process of relocating it is underway. There have been no objections to the public consultation to date. The footpath will be retained in that field, just moved to a maximum of 35 metres to the east to run along the boundary. The field is fully fenced to contain dogs, and it is away from the public right-of-way. This eliminates the risk of conflict between dogs and users of the path. There is a proposed cover crop of Felicia, which will act as a natural buffer between the field and the footpath. The site has been in operation for over a year now, and there have been no objections or conflict between the users of the footpath and those in the field. The field offers controlled access, allowing only individual bookings, reducing the number of users, and ensuring a managed and safe use. I understand that you have now refusal number 3 has now been addressed, but it does, as I've highlighted, contribute positively to green infrastructure. The shift to grass pasture for dog walking enhances soil health, reduces nutrient runoff into local water bodies, and it also prevents soil erosion and improves water absorption, reducing the risk of surface runoff and local flooding. We have introduced bird nesting boxes, and a planting of a strip of Felicia will offer vital support to pollinators and winter food sources for birds. It has also been suggested by a consultee that a number of trees are planted as additional green infrastructure. This request conflicts with the argument regarding the loss of BNV land, which, taking into account the root protection zone of trees, would mean that the field could not be cultivated again. As demand for safe, enclosed dog walking spaces continues to grow, this site offers a much-needed facility for responsible dog owners without compromising the surrounding environment. The 5-star Google reviews on Google and Facebook attest to the popularity of this site and how well run it is. Its suitability is enforced by its existing hedgerows and layouts, ensuring there's minimal visual impact or environmental intrusion. This is a considerate and proportionate development that supports the local economy, community well-being, and the existing farming business. My disappointment in having this application recommended for refusal when these points could easily have been overcome during the application process if it were not for the fact that the Planning Department has refused to engage in any proactive communication, stating they are under no duty to seek to resolve issues on applications. In conclusion, this application should be viewed as a responsible and beneficial land use proposal. It provides a much-needed service while delivering clear environmental, ecological and community benefits. The safeguards in place ensure that the site is well managed, and the enhancements proposed demonstrate a genuine commitment to sustainability and biodiversity. I respectfully urge the committee to approve this application, recognising the positive contributions it makes to the local area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Smack on time as well. Well done. Councillor Routley.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I could have sat that side today, but when I went privately to see the site, after I was made aware of it by the officers who asked me to comment on it, and I offered no comment on it because at that time I was a member of the decision-making process of planning. I went to have a look at it, and given the fact that it's been in operation for 12 months, I've absolutely didn't receive any information from the public, any feedback whatsoever. In actual fact, you wouldn't even know it was there unless you went and sought this out. And at that time, I decided that I couldn't take my place on planning because my mind had been made up, and I thought this was a worthwhile planning application. So I also want to reassure you, Chair, that this development will not result in the permanent loss of agricultural land. The land remains reversible at all times. It's just merely been paused, but you can reverse it back to agricultural land as and when you wish. The land in question represents 0.2% of 1,000 acres that's actually farmed by the applicant. So it's only a very small amount. This innovative change of use can help sustain the farming operations and provide economic resilience, and is a benefit to our local community. It is very widely supported by members in our local community who use the facility. There are many environmental benefits, and these have been included in the submissions by the applicant, and I'm not going to go back through them now. I would just say, look, this type of diversity is widely encouraged. It is sustainable development that works hand in glove with the environment. creating a perfect balance between nature, countryside, and the community. And when you tick all those boxes, and then it actually satisfies the planning needs of Wales. Diversity, diversity, diversity is the saving mantra for farming within Wales. So I guess, for me, why did this application go so wrong? It's quite simple that the applicant messed up. He put the cart before the horse, to use a phrase. Even though the cart, I suggest, is a very good cart, it's a lovely cart, it's a wonderful cart, but he got it the wrong way round. And this planning committee and planning itself isn't here just to turn things down. It's here to assist and to, in this case, assist him in putting the cart the right way round, which he has done now. The Public Rights of Way officer, I believe the arguments are now pending, and I have seen no realistic objections. I believe these can be worked out. I've actually walked that public rights right of way, and there's very little difference in it. If you were mindful to grant this application, then just to satisfy yourselves, you could add conditions, because conditions safeguard the public, they safeguard the integrity of this committee, and they would safeguard the application before us today. But however, whatever happens, I would say to members of this committee, if you want to go and see how to make agricultural farming work by being diverse, go and have a look at this. Go and have a look at it privately. You don't have to go as a committee unless you want to, but go and have a private look, and you will be astounded at what has been achieved. Everything there is reversible. Yes, he doesn't need permission to put the fence up, but even the fence can be taken down, and that land can be put back to farming use. So, as the local member, I fully support the granting of this application, with or without conditions put upon it, as you so wish. And I just think it's a wonderful, innovative way that farmers are now grasping the nettle, as we say, and using diversification to work in harmony with the community. I support the application, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ripley. I now open the floor to questions. Any questions? Sorry? No, he's not voting. You need to leave the room. Sorry, Councillor Ripley. I've been informed you have to leave the room. Yes, please, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I've been advised. No, just yourself.
No, our usual practice, is for committee members who are ward members who elect to speak as a ward member to leave the room, just so there's no sort of reasoning of, and not that you would, but undue influence as a committee member that you're sitting there. So we'll come and get you back in for the next application. Please, thank you.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Perkins? Sorry.
Just a question. Can Can there be a condition that the right-of-way at present is protected until such time as the decision to move it is made?
The public right-of-way as it stands is protected. It is the legal route. There has been no diversion agreed. So the legal route of the public right-of-way is through the field. Now, it might be that people are encouraged to use the route along the edge of the field, and I can't blame the landowner for possibly encouraging that, but the legal right of way is through the field. We cannot condition the implementation of a diverted route because that is subject to an entirely separate legal process.
I don't know. What I meant was, could we ask the owner to put a fence up along that to protect those that may be using it with dogs and other people who aren't dog friendly from the dog walkers, the dogs in the field?
It's not what they've asked us to consider, Councillor, so I would be reticent about that. I mean, in reality, because of, let me share it again. Okay, so because, as you can see there, the legal route of the right-of-way runs through the middle of the dog field. If they were to erect fences, those fences would either curtail the site area, i.e. they'd go on the western side and reduce the site of the dog walking field, or they'd put them on both sides and somehow have two separate parcels. Either way, that's not what they're asking. I think the dog walking field as it currently stands and the proposal is premised on that diversion being agreed, but it hasn't yet been agreed.
Any further questions? Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's a good idea, and the reason being is the legislation that NCC have put in place in regards to dogs must be on lead at all times. It is needed, especially where what has happened during the pandemic in regards to people having pets and what have you. It's a safe place to actually let them run. However, one question, well, I've got a number of questions. One is the access to the field. Is there sufficient area outside the access for people to park while gaining access to that field? Because that, I believe, is a narrow lane going up there, so if they're parking in the lane, they'd be blocking the area of any other vehicles.
Sorry, I'm trying to get photographs on, Chair. Bear with me a sec. Okay. Okay, so these are photos of the current arrangement. The two gates have been installed to service this use. The hard standing and the hard surface there have been installed to service this use. So vehicles will pull off the Mega Road. In front of the first gate you can see there.
Okay, no, that's okay. The other thing that was mentioned by the officer was the fact that they're looking to be able to use the field for up to 10 dogs. Now, is that 10 dogs at a time? That's going to be rather a lot of dogs to put in 2 cars at the max. You know, most of it, I'm rather concerned about that. The other one is the winter opening hours. You're talking up till 7 p.m. at night. Well, obviously, in the winter hours, it's dark by 4:30 in some cases. So I think that possibly that might be an idea to reduce the opening hours during the winter period of months. The other one is the strip of green which possibly could be installed around the dog field. Would that be outside the fence or inside the fence?
Which strip of green are you referring to? Are you referring to something the public speaker mentioned? Or
The strip of green which if they plan to install, I assume it's down the proposed public footpath.
yes, I think you're perhaps referring to the landscape and the public speaker mentioned this morning. It was in the green infrastructure that we received, a statement that we received earlier this week. And I think we mentioned in the late representation report, this is the red line boundary that we've been asked to consider that's on the screen now.
Yeah.
The red line boundary in the green infrastructure statement is not consistent with this. So in the statement that we received earlier this week, they've actually drawn in that eastern boundary where they want to divert the public right-of-way and plan to strip off new plants that the public speaker mentioned. That is one of the question marks in terms of the green infrastructure statement. But if minded to grant permission, we are satisfied that landscape issues can be dealt with by condition, because if not within the red edge, they're in the blue edge, i.e. wider land controlled by the applicant, and we are able to condition on that land.
So would the green infrastructure be on the external of the fence or the internal of the fence? Well, we don't know.
Question mark. Yes,
Okay.
as things stand, the red line is as you see it there. So the fence line is the red line on the eastern boundary.
Right.
However, in the green infrastructure statement, the applicant has indicated a fence line further westward, i.e. drawing it in. These are matters we would have to clarify and condition if minded to grant planning permission.
Okay. The other thing in regards to opening hours, in regards to the lighting during the winter months, could we put that condition to reduce that because of the lights of the vehicles within the compound?
The hours I detailed to you are the hours they've asked for.
Right.
That doesn't prevent you as a committee considering those hours too wide for material planning reasons, i.e. whether it's countryside protection reasons or general residential amenity reasons. So it's within your power to reduce those hours with good reason if you think it appropriate.
Okay. One final thing, Chair, and that is policy T6. At the bottom of page 20, the Council has a statutory duty to maintain a network and to deal with any necessary alterations to the definitive map which is kept under continuous review. Public rights of way form an essential element of the borough's green space natural environment and should therefore be safeguarded with the maintenance and improvements being undertaken to facilitate their use. Now, in next paragraph but 1, it says on T7, requires suitable diversion in such cases, but such a diversion has not been agreed and is outside the remit of the local planning authority. It seems to contradict itself. And I'm amused at that.
I think sometimes, Councillor, public rights of way can form a really, or an integral element of a development scheme. It's compatible with the development scheme. It's an asset to the development scheme. In this case, we've got an existing legal public right of way through the middle of the dog field, and in our opinion as officers, they're not compatible. They're not compatible uses. for the reasons I've stated in the presentation. So in this case, the dog field use, in our opinion, relies on the diversion of the legal route. Right. And that is where we have concern, because that diversion has not been agreed, may not be agreed. It's not a planning issue, it's a separate council department.
Okay, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Jordan.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. As you're going back to that right away, I was looking, in my mind, I'm thinking, would it be best to defer this application until that decision has been made for that part, that right away? And how long would that might take?
Your guess is as good as mine, and that's why deferral isn't something that we would recommend. I mean, I'm not an expert when it comes to the process. It is a legal process. It can be quite long and drawn out. This may well be straightforward. We don't know. That's the critical factor. I mean, you could say that the diversion should have been applied for earlier, perhaps, so that the diverted route was already in place, perhaps. That hasn't happened. So we are where we are. We are being asked to consider it on the basis of this plan, with the legal route still through the middle of the field, with an application pending on the diversion, outcome uncertain, and alongside, as I say, the public right-of-way matter, we've got a pretty fundamental objection on the loss of the best and most versatile agricultural land, because it hasn't been suitably justified in accordance with national policy. And one thing just to maybe mention, Chair, because it's come up a couple of times, is this is not an application for a temporary use. Okay, this is an application for a permanent change of use. And bearing in mind the economic argument that has been made by the applicant and agent, i.e. this is quite a lucrative commercial enterprise, there does seem little likelihood, as things stand, that this would revert to agricultural. And also there's always the possibility, and I'm not suggesting that they would do it, that this is severed from the wider agricultural operation, because it's a standalone commercial entity. So I think the reversibility point has been made a couple of times, but they are not applying for a temporary change of use. This is a permanent change of use to a dog walking field from agricultural. So that's just coming back to the BMV reason for refusal, Chair.
Yeah, another question. How come we can have a right of way through somebody's land if they've got livestock even in the fields itself? How come it's go straight through somebody's property? Do you mean, how come the right of way has not sort of been made to go around the edge of a field? Or
in this case, I believe the field is arable, so that the livestock point isn't relevant on this one. But we do get public rights of way through agricultural land. It's quite commonplace, in fact. As Councillor Watkins mentioned, there is a sort of expectation that walkers will be respectful of the current use, and should they have dogs, keep them under control. But yeah, it's not uncommon at all. On this particular one, I think there has maybe been an encouragement on the landowner's part to skirt the edge of the field by various means on site, and I can't blame them for doing that. But ultimately, the legal right is through the middle of the field. So if a rambler wants to walk through the middle of the field, they can walk through the middle of the field.
Councillor Harvey.
Yes, thank you, Chair. My question is on the right of way as well. It seems where it's running through the field there, if they put the fence up, have they actually blocked that right of way? Have they stopped people from using it by putting the fence? The red line indicates there's a fence all the way around that field. Have they actually blocked the right of way?
As I mentioned, I think at the moment the landowner is encouraging people to use the diverted route, or the route that they wish to divert to.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah. I believe at the moment that a walker, a public right-of-way walker, would not be able to walk through the middle of the dog walking field.
It's just my understanding, I might have it wrong, but it's illegal to block a public right-of-way?
Yes, that is my understanding. I'm not an expert on public right-of-way matters, but as I say, there is an application to divert the public right-of-way currently in process, being considered entirely separate to the planning process.
But what you're saying is that that's not definite, that's only a maybe?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Joe, can you take us back to a photograph you've shown? This might help Councillor Harvey, of the stile. It didn't look blocked off to me.
The style is there, Chair, because the style would serve either the current legal route or the proposed diverted route, because it's down here where my cursor is. I'll show you the photo though.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, there it is, yeah. Just where my cursor is.
Okay. Okay. It's not the best photo, it isn't. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, can I ask you a question? Is that stile been blocked off, or is there any green fencing put around there or anything?
The stile has not been blocked off, and the footpath officer has actually put a temporary stop notice on the existing right-of-way, which then allows the public to use the new proposed route until until the new route has been approved.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, just to say the bottom right photo on here shows the style taken from within the field, and obviously you can see this track is effectively the diverted route. But the style is unobstructed.
Okay. Oh, okay. So sorry, I'm going to ask you again. You're telling me that the department in charge of rights of way have already put a sign on it and advising people to go the other way?
A temporary stop notice, yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further questions? Okay, I'm just going to pause a minute. I want to get my head around a few things. So, Joe, can we confirm that the new path line, which is being used now, is on the applicant's land?
It's within a blue edge, Chair. So it's outside the application site, but within land controlled by the applicant.
Right. Okay, thank you. Councillor Pearce.
So is it possible to put a condition whereby it's checked every 5 years to make it temporary rather than permanent, to keep that land available to come back to agricultural use?
I'd say no, because the application is for a permanent change of use. They're not asking us to temporarily change it and then subsequently put it back to agriculture. It is a permanent change, and I don't think putting a temporary consent on it would actually address the two recommended reasons for refusal at this point in time. That's not to say that the applicant can't at a future date address both those reasons. So, for example, a diversion of the public right-of-way may be agreed. That falls away. In terms of the loss of agricultural land, we are lacking information in accordance with national policy to justify the loss of this very good quality agricultural land. It is a quite fundamental policy point. We are told to give it substantial weight in our decision making, and as things stand, the applicant's supporting information does not give us sufficient information in accordance with national and local planning policy.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Reynolds, you said you had a problem hearing. Has it been for a long time, or is it just me when I was mumbling?
Yeah, apologies, Chair. It seems to be okay again. I mean, you were breaking up a little bit, but yeah, Taylor has messaged me, so thanks for that.
So you've heard most of the conversation we've had this morning?
Yeah, I've heard everything. I just missed a few of your comments or your questions, but apart from that, I've heard everything. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thanks. Well, I was mumbling, I expect, Councillor Reynolds. Right, okay. There's no other speakers. The recommendation is for refusal. Do I have a proposer, please? Okay, thanks. Okay, yeah. Okay, is there any member of the committee that would like to put another recommendation in, please, and the reason for that recommendation? Okay, so nobody's voting for it, but nobody wants to put a recommendation in to Councillor Watkins.
Chair, if we're in a sort of stalemate, I'll recommend the officer's recommendation of refusal.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Harvey. Okay. So we have a proposer and a seconder. Can I please now ask all committee members to vote on the recommendation in favour of it? Okay. Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry. And those against? Any abstentions? One abstention. Thank you. Okay. It is been passed that we are, yeah, the recommendation is refusal. Thank you for attending. Okay. We now move on to item 224/0747. This was presented by Adam.
Thank you, Chair. This application is being reported to Planning Committee for consideration as it's a major development due to the overall size of the development area. The application seeks full planning consent for the construction of an electricity substation, underground cabling and associated works. The substation development comprises of a flat compound constructed on a concrete slab with various items of external electrical equipment, including transformers, switchgear, gantries and associated infrastructure, to a maximum height of 9.4 metres above ground level. The perimeter is proposed to be enclosed by a 4-metre high double mesh steel security fence in black. Access is proposed to be gained via a new vehicular access junction off Dufferin Lane with a new tarmac service road within the site. Surface water drainage is proposed to be dealt with via on-site features including swales and an attenuation basin. Approval is already in place from the local SUDS approving body for this. The buried cables will be installed entirely within hard surfaces and neutral grassland in road verges. The cables will be installed in ducts within a single trench, typically 1.6 metres deep, with a clearance to ground level of at least 900 millimetres. The trench will typically be 1.8 metres wide. So, members will note from the slide on currently being shown, there are different areas for this development. So the actual development site, I've got my cursor over it here. So this area is located within the defined settlement boundary on land allocated for development for employment and industrial uses. It's part of the overall Celtic Park site. My cursor then is showing the route of the proposed cabling, which extends sort of up here and down. There's a secondary area to the north of the M4, which also includes an existing access track, which is to be used for compensation in terms of planting and ecological compensation and mitigation that cannot be provided on site. So again, there's the development area in the south and the compensation area in the north, and that's how I'll be referring to each area throughout this presentation. So, as I've stated, the development site is located within the defined settlement boundary on land designated within the local development plan for development for employment and industrial uses. The site is located within the Imperial Park Industrial Estate, with the overground element located immediately south of Dufferin Lane on an undeveloped area of grass or scrubland. The subterrestrial element comprises of linear electricity circuits extending both to the northeast and southeast of the overground element throughout the Celtic Lakes allocation. The overground substation and underground cabling are located within the Gwent Levels archaeologically sensitive area and within the Dufferin South Lake Drive Site of Importance for Nature Conservation, or SINC, which is a local designation for neutral grassland adjacent to the Gwent Levels. The Gwent Levels is located approximately 200 metres to the south of the development site. So the compensation site is located outside of the defined settlement boundary within the open countryside and comprises of a 3.65 hectare area of grazed agricultural land and an access track to the public highway located 400 metres north of the M4. The site is bound on all sides by dense wooded field boundaries, separating the site from agricultural land to the northeast and west. To the south is a complex of rural, commercial and agricultural buildings associated with Nantamore Park and Cefn Logal Farm. On site, ecological mitigation is proposed in the form of scrub, native hedgerow, marshy grassland and additional grassland planting, in addition to ecological enhancements comprising of 8 reptile and amphibian hibernaculum and 7 dormouse boxes in retained scrub and a permanently wet wildlife pond within an attenuation basin. The compensation site will result in the creation of a 1.4 hectare of mixed scrub habitat, 2 native species rich hedgerows, the installation of 20 hazel dormouse nest boxes, the enhancement of 1.4 hectares of neutral grassland, and a long-term woodland management plan. There is no objection to the principle of the development, given the nature of the development for a substation within land designated for employment purposes. Within the context of the site, it is not considered that the development would result in any unacceptable adverse visual impact. And it's also worth noting that an additional substation has been approved immediately to the south of the development site.
Adam, sorry to interrupt. Councillor Harvey, your camera is off. Councillor Harvey. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, I just went for a toilet break.
Given the distance from the site and sensitive receptor points or the closest residential properties, no concern is raised in respect of the impact of the development on the living conditions of neighbouring occupiers. However, a condition has been suggested in respect of noise emissions consistent with the approach taken on the adjacent previously approved site for an additional substation. In respect of flooding and flood risk, the most up-to-date flood maps show the site to be entirely flood-free. Therefore, no concern is raised in this regard. NOW have been consulted and raised no concern in this respect. The site is within an archaeologically sensitive area. HENEB, or formerly GGAT, have been consulted on this application and raised no objection based on the supporting information that has been provided to accompany this application. In respect of highway safety, neither the construction, planting or ongoing maintenance of either site is considered to generate significant levels of traffic or disruption within the local with the local highways authority raising no concern to the proposed development and commenting that the expected traffic generation once completed would be minor and that the highway network is capable of absorbing it without concern. A public right-of-way crosses the compensation site. However, this would not be obstructed by the proposed planting, therefore no concern is raised in this regard. Colleagues in the Public Right-of-Way Department have been consulted and raised no objection to the proposed development. In respect of ecology and biodiversity, there are a number of constraints impacting the development site. Firstly, European protected species. Dormice habitat is present on the development site and the area is used by foraging and commuting bats. NRW have been consulted on this application and are satisfied that any harm can be overcome by the imposition of planning conditions, securing details in respect of construction management, and that the proposed mitigation and compensation for any loss is of an acceptable level as to allow the development to progress. The local planning authority are therefore satisfied that a European protected species licence would be granted. The Council's ecologist has also been consulted and is satisfied that the proposed development would result in a net benefit for biodiversity, and therefore the LPA is satisfied that the development accords with the requirements of both local and national planning policies in this regard. In respect of protected sites, the development site is located approximately 200 metres from the Gwent Levels SSSI, and therefore the construction of the development could impact upon it. Again, NRW is satisfied that any impact can be appropriately mitigated due to the imposition of a condition requiring a construction environment management plan. Therefore, the LPA take no issue or concern in this regard, and the condition to secure a Kemp is recommended. I'll just talk through some of the slides. So, again, the slide on site shows the extent of the development site and cabling to the south, and the compensation site and the access track to the north of the M4. The slide now shows the proposed layout of the substation plan. This this current slide shows the substation layout, the attenuation basin and swales located around the site, the planting that would be, some would be retained and others proposed around it, providing some visual a barrier to the site, and also the substation that's previously been approved immediately to the south. With elevations of the substation, again, it's utilitarian in nature, as you would expect. and, you know, very of what you would expect for a substation to appear as. The current slide shows the location of the underground cabling. And this is the approved SAB layout for drainage. We have details of the perimeter fence. And details of the compensation planting on the northern area. Again, where my cursor is, this is an existing access track to the site. So, again, it's included to show access to and from the public highway. We have some images of the site. So this is the site looking northwest. This is the view from Dufferin Lane. This is the site looking east. And this is the view from Pirkhoyd Lane, which is to the south of the site looking northwest. One additional point to make is that, unfortunately, and this is my error, so apologies in advance for this, there was an error within the late representations report that was circulated yesterday. Unfortunately, I used the originally suggested wording by Natural Resources Wales and not the subsequently agreed wording. So I'm just going to put the subsequently agreed wording that we've discussed with NRW on screen, but again, apologies, that was my error in putting the late reps together yesterday. So condition 6 would be changed to essentially the main details here are to allow for development to continue as suggested within the late reps report, in line with the proposed works and schedule of works to enable the development to go ahead. And then if everyone's had a chance to read that, I'll move on. So condition 9 is in 2 parts, so I've split them out for ease in this slide and the following. So this relates to the requirement for a construction environment management plan. And then if everyone's had a chance to familiarise themselves with that wording, this is the second part of that condition. So that covers the construction phase of the management plan. Again, apologies for the error in the late reps. That was my oversight. So to conclude, the development is proposed to provide an ongoing and reliable power supply to the commercial developments on the strategic employment land allocation. Although it is not one of the prescribed uses for development on this land, it is required to support the ongoing development of the allocation and to support the economic development goals as set by the local development plan. Accordingly, no objection is raised to the principle of development. The development site is not near residential dwellings, therefore would not have any unacceptable adverse impact on the living conditions of residents. No concern has been raised by the local highways authority in respect of highway safety during construction or operation. SEDS approval has already been granted by the SEDS approving body, demonstrating that no adverse impact would arise from drainage. No concern is raised in respect of visual impact, impact upon the character of the area, impact upon the historic environment, or to flood risk. The site is environmentally and ecologically sensitive. However, neither Natural Resources Wales or the Council of Ecologists have raised objection to the proposed development subject to conditions. It is therefore recommended that the application be approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Adam. Any questions? Councillor Jordan.
Yeah, sorry to just not try not to be a bit nasty, but under transparency, Are we still, will we still call it when Councillor Harvey went off for a toilet break?
Okay, I'll just check with Councillor Harvey. Councillor Harvey, have you read this report? So you're happy with everything you've heard, and is there anything else you would like to ask?
No, not at the moment, Chair, thank you.
So you can confirm you have read the report?
Yes, I read the report.
Okay, thank you. So we're okay there.
Also, and Chair, with the late representation number 6 and number 9, what are the differences? Are those two paragraphs being made different? With the outcome, you know, by reading your number 6 went in, and then you've revised in the second one. What extra difference of those two paragraphs got to the original ones already stated?
So primarily it's in relation to the delivery and the trigger points of when those conditions would take effect and what they would allow, what development they would allow to happen. So essentially one of the key differences is that they would allow for some site clearance to occur. But again, in consultation with NRW, we've agreed that that wouldn't have any significant impact, and it would allow for the schedule of works as proposed by the applicant to continue on that basis. So, but the differences are, to my mind, minor. They are around, like you say, trigger points and the sort of deliverability of those conditions, rather than them being sort of fundamental changes to what the condition is trying to achieve or the objectives of those conditions.
Also, Chair, if we go back to the main first slide as well, please. The first one, with the actual aerial view of the whole application. That one there, yeah. On the top there, it's in the purple, that bit of land on the top there. Is that agricultural land as well, is it? And what's that? That's being used for?
Oh, sorry, this area here?
At the top, yep.
Yeah, so yeah, that is agricultural land. So that's currently being proposed as for the compensation site to provide some planting, hedgerow, and some compensation in terms of dormice and other sort of ecological enhancements that can't be accommodated on the southern section on the sort of substation development site.
So what grade is that then there? So is that the normal agricultural land it can use as normal, or?
So this wouldn't result in the loss of any agricultural land. So off the top of my head, I don't know what that classification is, but because it wouldn't result in the loss of it, it's sort of it's a different scenario to the earlier application that we were considering, because that would have resulted in a loss, whereas this one, that land is still able to be used for agricultural purposes.
Any further questions? Councillor Watkin.
Thank you, Chair. Keeping on that map, if you could, please, Officer. Why have you decided to put the green area north of the M4? Why not keep it to the south of the M4, which would be beneficial to the ward as such, or anybody there?
In part, it's because of the planting that's proposed and whether or not it's appropriate within the extent of the SSSI. So there is an element of that, because not all features would be appropriate and supported within the SSSI. That's something that we've had concern by NRW. Also, it's going to be in terms of land availability that we could, that the applicants are going to be able to secure for this, but also this land provides a significant overall area with an existing access track. So again, it doesn't require the further construction of a new access. So I think overall it meets the objectives as set within Planning Policy Wales for off-site development. It is relatively local. I understand it's separated by the M4, but it's, certainly I would consider it to be close in terms of providing off-site compensation and mitigation. Equally, no concern has been raised in that regard by NRW or our ecologist. And I think overall, we've concluded that the proposed compensation and mitigation that the applicant is proposing on this land would have a advantageous beneficial impact and enhance the existing features of that site. So you'll note the areas of woodland here and here. So again, there is quite significant planting proposed, which again will further enhance those existing features on site. So I think it was just overall considered to be a appropriate site that we were able to achieve a significant net benefit on within the general vicinity of the development site. And again, not to prejudice any other development or land subject to any other allocation within the area.
So who is in control of that land at the moment? Is it the farm? Is it the substation people, or is it NCC?
So that land is within the red line boundary, so the applicants would have control of that land and the track.
Okay. The other question is, Chair, the substation, one substation has already been approved, isn't it? And they're looking to put another one. Why did they not make a bigger substation in the beginning? It defeats the object again.
So I can't necessarily answer that in terms of, I don't know what the overall operational needs would be. All I know is that when this, the council previously received a screening request for this to be considered under the environmental impacts assessment regulations, and three substations were included. So the substation subject to this application, the one immediately to the south, and another one on the site. So I can only assume it's from an operational need, but I don't want to make any claims that I'm not aware of.
Okay. One further question, Chair, if I may, and that's, what is the time scale? No, let's revert that back. The development itself is for a second substation and for the cabling going around Celtic Lakes. So what is the time scale for starting and completion of that? Do we have something like that?
Oh, we don't. The only thing that we would condition via the sort of Town and Country Planning Act would be that the development commences within the standard time frames. We don't have anything that would mean that they would have to commence it or complete it within a certain. Sorry, we have controls that it would be commenced within a certain time frame, but in terms of completion, I don't have that. Additionally, we do have a number of pre-commencement conditions that would need to be discharged prior to this development commencing. But I would imagine that, and again, this is, I don't know this, but if you note where the cabling is located to the north, here, this area is currently under construction, so this green parcel is currently under construction as a data centre. So my, again, assumption is that it would be to tie in with that.
I understand that, Chair. What concerns me, over the last 10, 11 months, there's been a development on Celtic Way by Welsh Water, which have prevented traffic circumventing that development. And it's caused road chaos at the junction of Pencan Way and Cardiff Road. They have just finished, actually this week, just finished, and will be opening up the highway again. But now, with this construction, you're talking about the construction 1-point-something metre deep, there's going to have to be road closures again. And I'm rather surprised that highways haven't commented on that, because then the residents and operators within the community will have to go round by Tredegar Park Junction and Pencan Way, which caused chaos over the last 9 months. So I'm really concerned about that.
Okay, I appreciate the concern. I think part of the potentially why it's not been flagged as a significant issue by highways is that in the supporting documentation for this application, the applicants acknowledge that part of this will need to be controlled by temporary road closures, but that is subject to a separate consent by the local highways authority. Again, part of it will be within existing hard surfaces, and part of it will be in existing grass verges adjacent to the highway. That would be a result of the development. That would sort of essentially be a consequence of it on a temporary basis. But again, I think in terms of this site has been allocated overall for employment and industrial development. Consent has been granted for a number of large operations, including data centres, and this development is seen as essential infrastructure to support that and the ongoing economic development, not only in this area but to achieve the Council's wider aims as delivered through the LDP.
As I say, I'm rather surprised that highways haven't mentioned any impact which is likely to cause businesses within that area and residents within that area and other places as well.
Councillor, we do have the Highways Officer online. Kevin's online if you'd like him to come in on this.
Yes, if I could, please.
Kevin, thank you.
Right, sorry, but I'm struggling with the sound here. Could you repeat the question? I'm really struggling to... I can hear it, it's loud enough, it's just not clear.
Right, the concern I have is the fact that over the last 9 to 10 months, the junction at the end of Celtic Way has been closed to all traffic because of Welsh Water putting in a new water main, apparently. That, over the last week, has now been rectified and they're just about to open it up. What concerns me is the tract of the ducting work which is proposed in this development is going to close the road again. So we're going to have that closure possibly another 10 months, 9 to 10 months, which restricts traffic avoiding the junction of Pencan Way and Cardiff Road at Tredegar Park. And it's over the last 10 months, it's caused chaos in Pencan Way. The traffic has been backed up for over half a mile in some cases, in both ways, because the traffic normally circumvents that development to avoid the traffic in Tredegar Park roundabout. Now they would not. So what concerns me is the time scale that is going to take place and the amount of time the roads are going to be closed.
Okay, so I can't tell you exactly how long the roads would be closed for. What I can tell you is that it's kind of outside of planning anyway. It comes under highway regulation, but statutory undertakers have the right to dig up the road, but there is a process in place whereby they have to come to the highways department and agree when they're going to do it and how they're going to do it and how they're going to manage the traffic. So we have some control. We can't stop them doing it exactly, but we have some control over how they do it and when they do it. So colleagues will try to minimise any impact. I don't know if that gives you any comfort, to be honest.
Well, I don't say my comfort. I'm concerned about the residents and the manufacturers in that area. You know, they're going to come to myself and my two colleagues who represent Tredegar Park Ward and Marshfield and asking how long are they going to dig it up again, and we won't be able to tell them. And fortunately, I had contacted Welsh Water and they gave me an idea of when the proposed their development of Welsh Water is going to be completed, and they were very good. In fact, they completed 3 weeks in advance of what they said they would. So at the moment, I've got nothing to go back to the residents and the developers and the manufacturers in that area of when it's going to be reopened. And I think that somebody needs to be able to tell him when it's likely to be.
Yeah, I can't really tell you when it's going to be or how long it would take. That's they have to put in an application, unless it's an emergency, you know, like a gas leak or something like that. There are powers that they can open the road and they can do their works, but they have to follow a process whereby we can make sure that we minimise any impact, so it doesn't coincide with other events, and we can control how they actually manage the traffic. But obviously, there's only so much you can really do. If you need to dig a hole in the road, it does have an impact.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Chair. But you say highways are the ones that deal with the road closures and would know the length of time that would be closed. Is that correct?
Sorry, did you say highways would deal with it? Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
The application, if this is successful, they then have to do that as a completely separate process.
I got no problem with the development at all, but I'm looking at mitigating the circumstances as much as possible. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Chair.
Any further questions? Councillor Jordan.
Yeah, Chair. It was just a quick question as well. You said there's 3 substations. There's 2 already there. So where is the other one already situated elsewhere within that site? Because we know, like, Microsoft now are building the one on the old Quinn site. If they might have a substation, is that substation and another substation going to go adjacent to where the other 2 are now?
So that was just what was included within the screening request that was submitted previously. So we don't have an application for a further station, but it wasn't included within the immediate vicinity of these 2.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you. The recommendation is to grant the conditions. Do I have a proposer, please? Councillor Jordan, second. Councillor Perkins. All those in favour, please raise their hands. That's passed unanimously. Thank you very much. We do have an extra item on the agenda today. However, I need to have a comfort break. So please give me 2 minutes if you can pause Recording, thank you. By Samantha Gremser.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Committee. As Chair said, I'm Samantha Krems. I'm from the Planning Policy Team, and I'm going to give you a run-through of the 2023 to 2024 Annual Monitoring Report, or AMR for short. Can I move on to the next slide? For a bit of background, the AMR is a statutory part of the Local Development Plan. The Council is required to prepare and publish an annual monitoring report, AMR, which has to be submitted to Welsh Government in October each year. So this is from last October 2024. This was the 9th annual monitoring report we prepared since the adoption of the LDP in 2015. The purpose of the AMR is to help the Council understand whether the LDP policies and policies are functioning as intended, and if the LDP is being implemented correctly. And if not, we need to ensure that our decisions are not open to any kind of challenge. As part of this report, we look at 193 applications last year, reviewed things like reports, committee reports, decisions, constraints, consultee comments. We looked at how the policies were applied, or if policies and constraints were not mentioned in the reports and committee decisions. We use the results from the AMR to inform and replace the LDP policies going forward. And if a policy has continued to have issues picked up as part of the AMR, we look at this, is there an issue with the wording of the policy, or is there clarity required for that policy? Slide 3. The questions we answer as part of the AMR are the same every year. These were set in 2015 at the time of the LDP adoption, and there are 123 questions or indicators grouped into 3 areas. So we've got contextual indicators, core and local indicators, and sustainability appraisal indicators. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through all 123 of them for you. So the first group, contextual indicators, this year they have all stayed the same as the last year, with 3 positive and 1 negative. The contextual indicators don't directly relate to policies, but they give an overall context to Newport. And it is worth noting that the Welsh Index of Multi-Deprivation used to analyse CON1, this is only updated every 4 to 5 years, with the most recent update in 2019. So that's why it's been consistently read, because we're not getting new information. Moving on to the core and local indicators, there are 35 of these are linked to the 10 objectives set out within the LDP. Each indicator notes a specific LDP policies that are relevant to it, and some policies do apply to more than one indicator. Of the 35 indicators last year, there was a slight decrease with the number of positives, but given the age of the plan, this isn't too much of a worry. Significantly to note, though, we don't have any oranges or reds, which are policy review or plan review, so generally we consider it functioning quite well. Looking at the positives, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but we have had a net increase of approximately 2.9 hectares of employment land this year. Since the start of the plan period, we've had 50 hectares of new employment land being created, and in terms of EM1 employment land, that equates to 4.2 hectares per year, which exceeds the 1.4 hectares target predicted as the LDP. We have a healthy 11 years of employment land supply. Since the start of the plan period, we've had 93% of large sites completed on brownfield land, and other things like 7 applications for renewable energy development this past year. So one of the targets the LDP sets is house building, with the target of 10,350 new homes across the plan period, so the 15-year plan period, by 2026, of which we've now built 8,267 new homes since 2011. We have 2 monitoring targets for this, which are shown in this graph. At the time of the adopted LDP, we set a trajectory, which is the purple up and down line, which is how many houses we expect to be built per year from the LDP. And for those of you who remember the 5-year land supply, this was removed by Welsh Government in 2020 and replaced with the average annual requirement, or AAR, which for Newport is 690 houses a year, which is the black line cutting across. Looking at this against what we have built, which are the green bars, our peak delivery only lasted 3 years rather than the predicted 5, the predicted purple 5, and with a dramatic drop-off in 2021 till 2020 to 2022, the COVID years. This year, which is the last green bar, has now exceeded both our targets, both the AAR and our trajectory target, and we are predicted in the coming years, the red, orange and blue bars, to continue to exceed these targets. At the moment, we are 8% below the AAR rate, which when looking across the whole plan period, and considering the 2 years of low build due to COVID, is considered a good position to be in. And the predicted delivery rate, so the red-blue line, we're looking positive, and at the end of the plan period, by 2026, we're predicted to have a shortfall of approximately 500 homes, or 5% of the total, 10,350. And again, with everything considered, this is a good position, we consider it a good position to be in. Moving on to the sustainability appraisal indicators. We have 84 SA indicators, which are split between 26 objective headings. These are designed to monitor and measure the social, environmental and economic effects of the LDP. It's worth noting that some SA indicators do overlap and duplicate the core and local indicators, and they monitor the same thing. And we have seen an increase in the total number of positives this year. Though the past few years, we have also seen more indicators where data is no longer available. So as part of the replacement local development plan process, we'll be looking carefully at how we monitor these indicators to make sure that, to try and avoid that for the future. Moving on to the next slide. So again, the positive appraisals, 48 positives are more than I can fit on one slide, and it is quite crowded on this already. But some examples of positives are all new residential applications permitted within 3 kilometres of an accessible natural green space. We've had 5.7% of the pupils from Newport primary or secondary Welsh medium education, and this is higher than previous years, which is something we're seeking to encourage. There were 7,600 visitors to the National Nature Reserve within Newport Wetlands last year, and we're not back to the previous pre-lockdown levels. This is a steady increase year on year. And moving on to my last slide. This is the 9th AMR, and it's fair to say the LDP is still considered to be functioning well. The process for the replacement plan has begun back in 2021, and all the issues raised in this and the previous AMR will look to inform the plans and the plan preparation as we move forward. The successful delivery of the allocated housing sites and the delivery rate on brownfield land and the number of affordable housing have all been recorded positively, and when taking into previous years' events. It's anticipated that positive delivery rates will continue through the remaining years of the plan period. And the RLDP will provide an opportunity to bolster this supply. The recommendations of the report, there are 6 recommendations coming out of the AMR, and these are to continue to review the LDP in line with the delivery agreement. So we're working towards the RLDP. Continue to give feedback to our colleagues in DM to support them making their decisions. Recommendations 3 to 5 relate to topic-specific indicators. And 6 is to continue monitoring and capturing the data in preparation for the 24-25 AMR, which the policy team have already started, so we're working towards next year's AMR. And that's a brief review of it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sam. Are there any questions for Sam? Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, just one. We said the Newport housing, this, the houses being built. We don't hold no stock for houses no more. So as that goes over over Newport City Homes, Melin, Jada and everything else, or no?
That's all houses built, so private and affordable. So your Taylor Wimpey's, your Red Rose, your Glenclin site, your Whiteheads, every site there. We go out and monitor those every year. So down to your individual house builders as well.
Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Chair. Item 2 on the final page, 56, you've got 89% of all new homes were delivered on previously developed land. So I'm assuming the way I read that, that's brown land.
Yeah, Planning Policy Wales refers to previously developed land and brownfield land interchangeably at different points, but it's the same thing.
Right. Does that comply with the local development plan, which finishes in 2026?
So we have a target as part of the AMR in our local development plan to provide, I can't remember the target, I want to say it's around 80% of housing on brownfield land. And we are exceeding that target, so that's a positive.
Yeah. The other one, the next bullet point down, it got 50 hectares of new employment land has been created during the LDP period. So far, 31.43% hectares. So does that mean that's new employment land, or does that mean employment land designated in the local development plan, which ends in 26?
Apologies, let me go back to the correct slide. So the 50 hectares of new employment land has been created since the start of the plan, and 31.43 on EM1 allocations. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's the place, but I'm trying to find out whether that's on the earmarked employment land in the local development plan, which finishes in 26.
So EM1 is the allocated employment land within the LDP.
Right,
yes,
so it's not greenfield type.
No, so that's the land such as the Celtic Lakes and other sites, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Any further questions? No? Okay. Samantha, thank you very much for your presentation. Item left on the agenda, which is appeal, my glasses on, appeal decisions, which is from information only, but are there any points on that? No? Okay. Thank you all very much, and I'll see you again next month.